Hi, this is George Rafeedie, the founder of Tell Your Story Brand Communications, or Tell Your Story for short. This is part of our new Storytime series, both a newsletter and some videos. Where we're going to share some thoughts on marketing communications and things related to marketing communications. And today, I'm really excited to have my nephew Hanna Kassis here because he's inspired me several ways over the years. He's like a little brother to me. He's been successful with his own finance company and his pour your own beer tavern and pizza place in downtown Cleveland. And I love to say that he's really embraced kind of the whole idea from a business standpoint of getting out there, putting yourself out there. And part of that is really being a networker. And we were talking about networking when I was visiting him over the holidays. And I told him, I got to get back into the swing of things. I see myself as a big networker, but just lately haven't done as much. And he said something I'd never heard before. And we wrote a blog post about it. And now we're just going to chat about it a little bit. Hanna, how are you?
Good. How are you, G?
Good.
I call
Hey,
my
could you...
G Money.
That's fine. Why don't we relive that conversation where I was like, listen, man, I got to get out and network more. And you were having a networking event and then you threw out this concept I never heard of before. So can you talk a little bit about that?
I think the backdrop was it was around the holidays and I was coming off my Q4 networking bender.
Yeah.
Hosted an event, went to a few more events, and I went to one event that a friend of mine, Greg, introduced me to, and it was the SFNet, like local asset-based lending, and it was there were a lot of heavy hitters in the room. In following up, I called Greg and just said thanks. Thanks for the invite. That was a great event. He just told me, he just laid the wisdom down. I can't take credit for it, but Greg McBride with FGI, they have a big Chicago presence. He said, there's three groups of people you could network with. There are the buds, who are your friends, the duds, who really don't get you much, and the studs, who are, the conferences where you're meeting, or the network events where you're meeting people who are creating value for you. They could be a solid referral partner for you because they understand what your service is. People who provide ancillary services to what you're doing. People you could just, could be potential competitors that you share ideas with, really. For me, now, every networking event that I come across, I try to assess what bucket does this fall into, just because, you don't want to waste your time.
Yeah. And that's kind of the tricky part for me because as we all do, we probably know a bunch of all three, studs, duds, and buds in your network. And sometimes they overlap a little bit. I'm pretty happy to say that I've got a bunch of studs in my networks that I've now considered friends. They're buds.
Exactly.
And there are a lot of duds too that, when I see them, you always got to be nice and kind, but you got to know that, okay, maybe you'll get some value out of it, but probably not. But it's interesting to go into these things with that mentality, not to really close anything off, but just to understand that at the end of the day, you want to find studs, and studs push you, inspire you, and help you.
That's right.
Yeah.
You want to filter those conferences. Some conferences and meetups get a bad rep, either because they get too saturated with salespeople. I think that's ultimately what turns an otherwise like event full of studs into an event full of duds. Is that it's a lot of people have commission breath. I don't know what other way to put it, but when someone's trying to sell you all the time, that's where you're like, okay, this is or a lot of irrelevant people are showing up where they don't properly filter the guest list. They kind of just scream from the mountaintops, and then next thing you know, you're at a finance conference, and there's people from HR there, and you're like, well, you can't help me, and I can't help you. So
yeah. I love it. You're always good for some new terms that I haven't heard, so I just wrote that one down. Commission breath. That's a good one. Maybe there's a blog post on that one. A long time ago, when I was doing a little adjunct teaching, I had a little presentation on types of networkers, and it was different from the studs, buds concept. It was like, well, what are you? Are you an aggressive networker? Are you I can't believe I need to go networker? Are you the, oh my God, here's that guy networker? And I always thought it was valuable to know what type of networker you are, so that when you are in a situation, you are aware of that. But most importantly, you know that you need to do it. And if you understand where you are in that scale of networkers, then you can go in and be more effective. I hope I'm never seen as oh my God, here's that guy networker, but maybe I am
Yeah,
sometimes.
maybe. Who knows? And you also, I think, even regardless of what event you go to, it's what you make of it. If you, I've been burned out from networking, and I sign up for an event on the fly, or someone invites me, and I go, yeah, I'll do it. And then the day of, I'm like, man, I really wish I had those few hours. One piece of advice I'll give to any networker that's organizing these events is the 5 p.m. start is rough, because it's really not 5 p.m. to start. If you're working from home, you got to start getting ready by 3:30. I like the 6:30 start, because it gives people time to leave the office, finish their work, and get to the networking event. But if you catch myself being too busy, I saw this on a reel somewhere on Instagram, and it's very helpful advice for networking, is if you go into it with, I don't want to be here today, you're not going to get anything out of it. But if you go into it with, okay, why am I here? And what's my purpose? And what's my objective? What do I want to get out of this? Doing that, even like a little mental exercise walking into it. Okay, why am I here? I'm here to find referral partners. Okay, what do I want to get out of it? I want to learn 3 very interesting things about alternative financing that I don't know. Or I want to find out a new business model that I wasn't aware of, because it could be some potential opportunity. Whatever it is, I think you have to, even if you're looking forward to it, and especially if you're not, what is your purpose? Why are you going to this? What's your objective? And if you don't do that, and you're grumpy about it, and you still show up and you put on the face, it's not going to come through as genuine. I think you really have to be ready to go and prepared to get something out of it.
Yeah, I agree. There's so many of these, and we've been to hundreds of these events where maybe you're not that motivated to go, but you should do it. But I like the point you made. If you have in your mind, okay, what are the things I need to get out of this for it to be a success? For me, it's meeting that one great person in a room of 300. It's learning one great thing that I didn't know before.
Exactly.
You go, and maybe have a good cocktail or a good app. I don't know, that gives
Yeah.
you some fulfillment. And if you can leave there going home on the train or driving home and knowing that you accomplished those things, then it was worth it. And then of course there's the follow up and what you make of that. But if you can have those things in your mind, have confidence going in, getting those things accomplished, then it's a job well done.
And I think if you're a business owner, not only should you be out there shaking hands and kissing babies and filtering dud, bud, stud and coming up with what's my purpose and my objectives, I think it's very important to actually host events. Because if you think in terms of advertising, impressions, captive audience, if you have an event where you offer first free drink or food, and you take 5 minutes in front of the room to talk about a recent transaction you've done or client you've helped, you have a captive audience. And I think that you could grow your business exponentially by hosting at least 2 of those events a year. Not just attending them, but hosting them, because that 5 minutes where you could speak to the entire room is you can't put a price on that attention.
Yeah, that's a great point. Being the catalyst of bringing people together also builds a lot of equity for you. Like, he's a guy, or he's a person that cares about the industry, bringing people together, sharing his own knowledge, and look at this opportunity he's given us. So it builds equity for you,
Yeah.
which is a great point.
Case in point, there's a local, so we're a business financing advisor, broker, investor. There's a local competitor of ours, an elderly gentleman, been in the business for years. We've had rapport through the same networking groups. And I had approached him a few years ago about possibly joining as an advisor with us. Just bring your Rolodex over, bring your book over. But he told me straight up, a lot of people in this business are shady actors, and I don't really know you from Adam. You seem like a nice guy, but I'm just reluctant to, and that was totally fine. How would he otherwise know me? Stayed in touch over the years. We had an event in March. He showed up. A week later, he's like, oh my gosh, I have a client for Babylon. And he sent us a local company. Key Bank cut them off. They needed $300,000. Unfortunately, we were not able to help the client, but we were able to help serve and potentially help the client. Thanks to that trust. While he was networking with us, he met a few members of our team, only to find out that they were part of my team. And so it just enhanced our credibility. It's almost like a magic trick. Like, once people know you're out there and you're a dot connector and community builder, I think good things come from it.
Yeah, builds upon itself.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about how youngsters, as you know, you've got cousins. You're the godfather of my two sons, and one's in college, one's in high school, and I've always said, it's never too early to network, even while you're in high school and while you're in college. How do we get young people to understand how important networking is?
I think they'll be more apt to do it than we think because loneliness is big right now, and there's a whole wave of startups that are solving loneliness, and people are sick of social media, and people want to get out more. So I think they'll be more apt to network than we think they will be. But once they see for themselves what value it could bring, I think educating them through series like this is a big part of it, actually, which is a big reason why I wanted to do it. But I think anywhere, whether it's with dating, networking, building friends, people are lonely and people want that physical interaction again like we had before social media. So things are coming around full circle. I think it's a great time to start getting out there and meeting people.
Yeah, that's a great point. And something we'll have to see how that evolves. I told the story the other day of or my son who's looking for some internships this summer on just a story that I like to tell is that on the intramural fields of Ohio University, Athens, Ohio, in 1992, I befriended a young PR freshman, and I was a senior. Nice guy, really liked him. He had a hell of an arm, so he was on our intramural football team. And 5 years later, I moved to Chicago and I hear his name come up that he's at a PR firm. And I called him, said, hey, I'm in town. And I was doing new business development at the time. And he introduced me to someone at one of his clients looking for something. Long story short, that 1992 friendship that built into me being able to reach out to him just to network a little bit has turned into another relationship, not with him, mind you, with someone that he connected me with. That's been almost a 20-year relationship of this person and the companies that this person has worked for as a client for Tell Your Story and previous agencies. So I got a direct deposit in my account yesterday that is directly attributable to networking I did as an undergrad. And there are a lot of steps in between that kept that going.
Right. But
But
it's easy to keep that momentum going once it's there.
right, exactly. And even this person has led to other opportunities. And these are, you got to be genuine. I mean, when you're thinking about, okay, is this going to turn into income for me, money for me, a job for me? It's one thing, but if you're genuine and you build genuine relationships, and I can honestly say I have genuine relationships with that person at the beginning, this person is a client now, and everything in between. If you're transparent, honest, genuine, you provide each other with value. That's a grand slam when it comes to long-term networking success.
Well, you know Dale Lenzer.
Yeah, of course.
So my banker that helped us raise the capital to buy a business, I had met through a networking event. My girlfriend at the time, now my wife, this is funny because she dragged me to a networking event coming back from our uncle's funeral at the end of October 2019 when Uncle Isa died. And I was sulking and I wanted to go home, and my wife at the time was going to a networking event and said, you got to come, there's a lot of heavy hitters in this room. I said, no, I was like, I'm just going to go home. She's like, what are you going to go home in sorrow all night? Like, just come out, get out of the house. So she dragged me there. It happened to be at my old attorney's law firm. So I show up and meet my friend Brent, who he's my friend now. I'm actually going to his networking event Thursday. He has one at the end of April every year. He's like, you have to come to this networking event. I go to this networking event. It was right during COVID, so these guys are still getting together. So I showed up, I think, at the end of 2019 and beginning of 2020. Met my banker, Dale Lenzer, at that event. Dale, 4 years later, finances our acquisition of the bar, and I've sent him 4 deals in the last year. One of them actually has a grand opening on Saturday. But if it wasn't for me showing up, it's like what Woody Allen says, 90% of life is just showing up. I could have went home and sulked and probably still ended up marrying my girlfriend. But I could have went home and sulked, but she dragged me out, and she dragged me out to this networking event that led to a chain reaction, and that ultimately led to a business that pays us every day. We get the deposit from the POS system, and
Yeah,
it's a business on our balance sheet.
that's pretty amazing, And I think if you didn't have that foundation of networking, you just needed a little push there from someone who knew you needed a little push. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's lucky, but luck is the residue of hard work.
Woody Allen says it best. 90% of life is just showing up. Just show up and see what happens.
Show up and see what happens. Learn that one thing, meet that one person, and try to leverage it from there. Listen, I consider us, you and I, studs in networking. All right. We're not shy. And it's the truth, right? Even though I do need a haircut, usually when I'm on camera or I'm going to a networking event, I get a haircut every 6 to 8 days or so. So this is long for me, believe it or not. But even though I don't have a fresh cut, I consider myself a stud of networking as you are. How do you become a stud?
I think you become a stud by creating value for others in conversation and by helping others, like sending business to other people. Because if you know their box and you come across a client, it's not the other way around. Everyone wants someone to send them a deal, but if you're able to send someone else a deal, then you become a stud. Or just creating value, like, oh, hey, that's interesting. You're in that space. Do you know so-and-so? No, I don't. Okay, well, let me introduce you. Yep, just see what happens, right? And then they get something out of it. And so I've done that a million times over. I can't even count how many times I've done that where I've introduced people and stuff has come from it. But I think that's how you become a stud. And at the beginning of the call, I think we had said we wanted to define stud, bud, and dud. I have my notes here. Studs create value in conversation, and they know what to look for to send someone a deal. You look for ABC, well, I happen to come across ABC, or you introduce them to somebody that could help them. Buds are a listening ear. The guys you could go network with, who usually are studs that turn into buds. Like you said, there's carryover, but buds are a listening ear and people you just genuinely have good conversations with, even if you can't do much with them. I'm good friends with the group that I met Dale through. It's a very diverse group of service providers that I really can't do much with and they can't do much with us, but we have great conversations. And then the duds are the people with commission breath or the events that get watered down because they're not properly filtering the attendees.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And I like how you've defined it for me, the value in conversation, not necessarily value after, like a week later, but it's on the spot value, both in terms of them enjoying talking to you, you're giving them knowledge, you're sharing. You leave that like, oh wow, that was a good net impression. But then also, value down the road, hopefully. But that value in conversation is an interesting point that you made there. I'll also add that you just got to be genuine, genuinely interested in what this person you're talking to is all about. And then be genuine in who you are and what you do. And then be kind, be nice, whether they're a stud, bud, or dud. You gotta be kind. Because I believe, I'm probably not going to name anyone specifically or really anyone top of mind, but I'm sure there have been people that I thought were duds that ended up being someone that has given me value in some way.
Yeah, you never know. Never make a judgment call. Never make a judgment call beforehand. Maybe you could, that event's full of duds, maybe, but
yeah,
it's still good to dabble because you never know what'll come from it.
You never know. You're right. That is amazing, man. Well, we've got the recap of.
I never thought we'd dissect it this much. It's pretty interesting.
Well, it is interesting. I mean, it is. It's never too early to network. You never know when something is going to turn into a networking that becomes valuable for you. And you never know if something you said, you may not know it right away, but down the road, you may hear that, wow, that inspired me to do this. So that's fulfilling too. And so there are a lot of angles to this and something that I actually personally want to explore further. Maybe we can explore it more together. But we got the blog post up that I wrote earlier this year on tellyourstoryinc.com. We're gonna play around with this video and send it out. And oh yeah, look at that. You ready to go? Aren't you going? You're going somewhere, aren't you?
I'm going to the Yankees Guardians game right now. So
is it sunny? What's the weather in Cleveland?
Good enough. A little overcast, but 70.
All right.
Sunny, partly cloudy.
And you never know who you're going to sit next to. You
never know who you're going to make sure not to run on the field, but yeah.
Speaking of network, you know where I'm going now that don't do that. Yeah, we know where that leads us. Speaking of networking, I got a text this morning of a guy that I worked with for a few years. He from Cincinnati, lived in Chicago for a while, a big part of my career several years ago. And he's back in town and he says he needs some suburban drinks. So he's coming up here. I'm going to do that in an hour, and you're going to go do some networking at the ball game. And you never know where these things. These are all
I'll
relationships.
be sure. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to manifest a few good introductions. I'm going to take my business cards.
Yes.
I'm going to take them to the game with me and see what happens.
Yeah. Why not?
I'll follow up with what.
Yeah. Report back. As a matter of fact, do a selfie video from the ball game, telling me how the networking scene is tonight
I will.
at Progressive Field. Is that what it's called? Progressive?
Aggressive field. Yep.
All right. Hey, well, thanks so much. This is not going to be the last time we do something like this. It might be a different topic, might be the same topic, but thank you, Hanna. We appreciate it. And you're ever in downtown Cleveland, you got to go to Whistle Tap Room. Best beer selections, pour your own, never a line, and incredible pizza out in minutes, right?
That's right. Pizza by the slice. We cook a full pie in 3 to 4 minutes. So.
Beautiful.
Yep.
And then, of course, your lending needs, you call Babylon.
Yep.
Thanks, Hanna.
Thanks, guys. See ya. Bye bye.